This is a secure Cyber Connect podcast with Adamson and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information, cybersecurity, technology, and talent acquisition professionals who share their journeys, unique perspectives, and also advice and guidance. Our topics on this episode will be inclusive cybersecurity training and building a security-first culture. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by Jemma Davis. Jemma is the founder of CultureGem, an award-winning platform dedicated to building cybersecurity cultures through adaptive and inclusive training. Gemma's journey into cybersecurity was sparked by her drive to protect vulnerable individuals from cyber attacks and security scams. And today, she's committed to creating learning experiences that empower organizations to stay secure online. For business, CultureGem's approach is centered on understanding that all people learn in different ways. And CultureGem is a reflection of her belief that everyone deserves inclusive, accessible, adaptive training, and to ensure that every user can access the tools they need to stay safe in the digital world. Jemma started her career within marketing, but after witnessing the 2017 WannaCry ransom global cyber attack across Microsoft systems, she became extremely passionate about helping people navigate the digital landscape safely and driving lasting behavioral change within organizations. Jemma, welcome to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. What an introduction. God, this made me sound really good.
So we all start with a bit of a high-level overview from your side, very brief high-level overview from you of what we're looking to discuss today.
Yeah, so anybody who doesn't know me may not know what a huge advocate I am for doing the right thing in the right way for the right reasons. And inclusivity, treating everyone in a way that they need to be treated. That often is confused with equality, but what we're talking about here is equity, giving everybody what they need in order to succeed. And how I like to join all of that together in the world of cybersecurity and compliance to make everyone safer. My tagline out in the world is let's do it for the nuns, because I love my nun and I want everyone's nuns to be safe as much as I want my nuns to be safe.
And would you be kind of to share something with our audience, something that may not be on your LinkedIn profile, for example, that you're particularly proud of or you wish to shine a light on, something that may be a little bit kind of off-piste?
I mean, I'm incredibly proud of everything that I do, I am and achieve. And the reason being is that I didn't have a great start in life. And so I grew up in a foster care system, started my life in an abusive household. I left school with 2 GCSEs, both in English. And I gave up on learning at a really young age until I discovered my optimum way of existing in the world. And I was very fortunate that I was able to do that and have kind of used my passion and those life experiences to take me on a journey that is where I am today. And I'm incredibly proud that I found the motivation and built a world around myself that worked for me. And not many people are able to say.
I think that's brilliant. We really appreciate you sharing that with us and hearing that motivational story is certainly going to resonate with some of the audience out there. Now, from a cybersecurity standpoint, what was the one significant challenge that you perhaps faced from your perspective on cybersecurity?
Yeah, I have. It's an ongoing challenge, and I hope one day it's not just my challenge. It's a challenge out there that I guess I don't necessarily look or sound like a typical cybersecurity person. I've not necessarily gone through the same journey as they have. And so when I walk into a room full of cybersecurity people, they can sometimes assume that I'm there by accident, like I've walked into the wrong room, like don't belong there. And then I tell them that I work on the human side of cyber, where I deal with the people and process and not the technical side. So they definitely think I'm in the wrong place and can almost discredit me without giving me a chance. Now, the people that know me and the people that have worked with me or that have come on this journey with me, they're very respectful of who I am and what I'm trying to do. But people who don't necessarily have an understanding of that side of things and where it adds value can be quite derogatory. And I think that's a huge challenge that I'm seeing more and more across cyber. Just in June, I was at a huge cybersecurity conference. I was standing with one of my colleagues who's let's call him a middle-aged white man. And I was asking questions at exhibition stands, and the sales teams or the people representing those brands were answering to him and not talking directly to me. Well, I was the one asking the question, so answer to me. And that I see quite a lot. I definitely haven't any more than it.
Sorry to hear that you're going through that. It is something that we hear quite often, unfortunately. But we're hopeful that platforms such as this are going to raise awareness of that, encourage others to step up and speak out when they witness these actions and ultimately drive change.
Oh.
Jemma, obviously, one of the key things we want to try and sort of elaborate on today and expand on is understanding neurodiversity in cybersecurity. For any of our audience who aren't as informed as many people are, would you be kind enough to sort of please explain in a little more detail maybe what some of the common misconceptions about neurodiversity are and how ultimately, I guess, inclusivity and accessibility within neurodiversity will help revolutionize cybersecurity training?
Yeah, this is possibly where I dig myself into a great big hole, because there are lots of different kind of ideas and thoughts around the terminology and the phrasing. So realistically, everybody is neurodivergent in that your brain processes in a different way to the person next to you. You have a way that your brain works. Now, when we talk about neurodiversity, we're including neurotypical people who are more mainstream thinkers. Now, this is where people start heckling me and getting annoyed when I say everybody is neurodivergent. Neurodiversity is a thing that touches everybody. We all have our own divergence in that way of working. I don't actually have a statemented neurodivergence, but my brain is quirky and I keep being asked, like, what's your diagnosis? So clearly something is radiating from me that says this person is not a mainstream thinker. There are lots of diagnoses, and there are way more than you could ever think are possible. And I don't know if we've got time to go into them all, but there's a whole daisy of different traits and behaviors, and neurotypical people are on that daisy. They exist in the neurodiversity space. I guess the most common misconceptions are that we're difficult people and that we don't play well with others, but actually neurodiversity brings a whole different way of thinking and working. There's the phrase like birds of a feather flock together that exists, and we tend to make friends with people who look and smell and think like us, which is a really dangerous game, right? When you start having that diversity of thought and having people around you that don't look and smell and think and act like you start to change your processes, your opinions and your thoughts based on interactions that you're having with them. And I'm a huge fan of that. The reason that I might be construed quite a lot as being neurodivergent is all of my friends are neurodivergent and I love them. And we get on really well and we do weird shit together. We're like spicy brained, strange people. We'll be out having dinner and someone will say to me, oh, do you want some ice cream? And I say, oh, no, I don't eat extremes of temperature. And they're like, oh, did your autism just hang out? Like, yes. There are weird things that I do, but I don't have a bit of post that says that there are weird things that I do. I'm just me and I'm happy being me. And we should all just accept that we're all us and we're happy being us.
For sure. So, and I think in terms of, I guess, the cybersecurity industry as such, how do you think leaders can promote that sort of, again, that inclusivity and accessibility within the cybersecurity training space?
Mm-hmm. So I think if you were to ask anybody about the weird, wonderful personalities that are in cyber, I think we're quite, let's say, neurodivergent bunch demographically compared to other kind of work, I guess, departments within your organization. The quirky ones are normally in IT and cyber. So there is a larger than average demographic of people who are autistic, ADHD, dyslexia in cybersecurity. And the reason is just that's the way our brains operate. We see patterns, we see things in very different ways. So you will find that cyber are a fun bunch of reprobates and interesting thought leaders. Now, in terms of promoting that inclusivity, is really tricky because I'm of the view that cyber leaders didn't become cyber leaders because they want to be. They became cyber leaders because that is the chain of promotion. They didn't necessarily think, oh, one day I'm going to be head of a team of 15 SOC analysts. They potentially the career goal is to be a CISO. But what happens as you get promoted through cyber, you start off being someone who really enjoys whatever it is that you do, application security, cloud stuff, and you're really into it. And then as you progress, you'll start to inherit people and a team that forms around you, and more responsibilities in the line manager space happens. And then you become a CISO, where you might have been an AppSec engineer or something. You don't necessarily have all of the interpersonal management skills bred into you through that journey. So this is where we're going really wrong, is how do you get leaders, cyber leaders, to breed inclusivity is to actually focus on that, the leadership and the management and the human aspect of everything at every stage of their career journey. And not just, you're a manager, you've got some people, we'll send you on some management training stuff, because the damage in your behaviors are already forming part of your habit and the way that you're behaving and treating people. It's really important to do that at every stage of someone's journey, is to start looking at those inclusive behaviors and what you need to do to lead your team. I'm all in favor of the squad models, which is everybody can be a leader and everybody should lead a project. And it doesn't matter if you're the admin person or you're the CISO, you take part in responsibility, because that allows you to flex your leadership and mentoring and coaching ability as you work your way through.
I think given out that responsibility and given sort of peers accountability drives sort of innovation and helps them grow as individuals, not just obviously able to the business.
Yeah, and I think there's such unique strengths of individuals, every individual. I think there's a lot for leaders to focus on to really play to those strengths.
And Jemma, would you share with us here the importance of adaptive learning platforms within compliance and cybersecurity, and also share with us how they differ in relation to traditional methods, for instance?
Oh, this is where I apologize in advance, because I might get a little bit sweary and passionate about this. Like, we all went through school, right? And we know it was a terrible experience. There are a very small set of people that thought school was the best years of my life. We all were forced into learning in some sort of way, or colouring in some sort of way, where there was a way that you have to do things to be able to impress somebody who wears a suit that says you aren't meeting the attainment that you're supposed to meet. I gave up learning when I was 8 years old. I remember vividly sitting on the scratchy carpet, cross-legged, and what is the point in all of this? I don't get it. I can't behave in the way that they want me to behave. Trying my best, but I'm just failing. And the more I try and fit into whatever it is that they want me to do, the more stressed and anxious I'm becoming by this whole thing. And then the more withdrawn I'm becoming with mainstream education. And mainstream education is dictated by some bloke in a suit that thinks that they know what's best for children. Absolutely not a clue. They don't know, and they're not living in that environment to know what is best for kids. So where we're going wrong there is a cookie cutter approach that says this is how we learn, this is how we do it, and these are the things that you must be able to demonstrate by the time you leave school, which isn't preparedness for the rest of your life. We don't know how to do taxes. We don't know how to budget. We don't know how to live. There are so many things that we're not taught how to do, but we might know Pythagoras theory. I don't, because I never did math, because I didn't understand it and I can't read numbers. But there are mad things that we learned. We absolutely have never needed to know, like, what's the area of the room that I'm sitting in. Like, and if we do know, we go on B&Q's website and put in a calculator, right? And it just tells us how to do it. So it's crazy that we're all, I guess, shoehorned into this way of living. Now, the reason that is done is because individual learning plans are really tricky and there are so many wild cards. So I kind of went through my career. One of the jobs that I've done is teaching adults with learning difficulties, life skills. And so I had a class size of 6 adults. They're over 18-year-olds that all had a statemented learning difficulty. It could be that they're autistic. It could be that they have like cognitive functional issues. It could be nonverbal. And I would have to come up with a way to teach them what the desired outcome was. Now, a class size of 6 was hours and hours of planning and assessment of basing what I was going to teach them on what I knew, my personal interactions of them. Then it got lesson day, and I'd sit with them, and everything that I thought I knew about their brain was wrong. And they learned in a completely different way to the way that I had prescribed that they were going to learn in my individual learning plan. For example, I ran a class of basic computer skills. So we had some laptops that were donated, and so we spot the turn on the laptop, press the button. Now, not everyone has the physical capabilities to press the button. So that's a challenge, to work out how you're going to get around that. But the first thing that I got them to do was type their name. Now, if you look at a keyboard, there are no lowercase letters on a keyboard. And so that was a challenge in itself. How do you get them to write their name when they know that the first letter is a capital and then the rest are lowercase, that you can't see a lowercase letter? So you'd have to then get a lowercase keyboard to do the rest of that journey. And the other thing is, when I type on a keyboard, what the letter I'm typing on is an uppercase, but it comes up on a screen as a lowercase, because I need to take an action before that makes it a capital letter. These are things that I had never even considered, because I grew up in a generation where we have computers and I know how to type and I know how to do those things. But when you take someone from outside of that world, you have to try and work out how they're going to be able to learn and be able to attain the learning objective. That's really expensive and challenging to do. Wild cards, near on impossible to get right. So when you start looking at things like adaptive learning, what you do is you give people options. You say, you learn how it works for you. And you allow them to change their learning environment to a way that works for them. Now, most people don't know what their optimal learning environment is because they've been through mainstream education. They've sat cross-legged on the carpet. They've done the colouring in the lines. They don't know how their brains work unless they're more like me that gets to play in my own brain all the time. And I absolutely love that's part of my job, is working out how my brain works, working out how your brain works so that I can work out that my brain does something different to your brain. Otherwise, I wouldn't learn these things. So adaptive learning allows you to tailor the environment that you're in to a way that works for you and to discover something about your own brain. What is ridiculous about the world is that doesn't exist. What exists in the world are compliant, accessible content. So there are the Web Accessibility Content Guidelines that say any content that you put on the internet in the UK must be over the screen reader. If it's a video, it should have subtitles. If it's written, then you should be able to listen to it. So it should work as an audio or a visual. That's it. And that is so not gonna. That is a terrible situation. So when we say adaptive learning, doesn't exist in the mainstream. If I went out any cybersecurity, compliance training, e-learning tool, they would say, we are fully accessible because we do WCAG 2.1, 2.2, which means you can use a screen reader. And that is it, which is a terrible experience because, again, you're expecting people to fit into a world that they've always fit into as opposed to giving them the choice, which is why it was really important for me to do better than that.
In terms of building a security-first culture within organisations, Jemma, and fully all from that insight you've given us in terms of the adaptive learning side, what role does culture play in general in driving this sort of security-first approach within their organisations? How can these leaders promote this culture of security? And I guess also with particular focus now on remote and hybrid work environments, which are ever evolving.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crucial. And unfortunately, which absolutely baffles me, and I don't want to sit here and be negative Nelly about everything, but it does feel like I'm doing that a little bit. Security culture is not something you see much of. It's still, when I entered this market 5 years ago, I was like, oh, I am early. So early. And tomorrow, I will still be really early because it's not something that is done as the norm within an organization, which is terrible. That if you look into the benchmarking and the statistics around security awareness and what does a team look like and how does that work in a typical organization, there will be one and a half full-time roles that are focused on security awareness. Now, what security awareness is mandatory training, maybe some emails that say, oh, we've seen something, don't do the thing. Maybe there'll be a security awareness month. It's not a huge amount of activity that actually does anything or makes a difference. So in terms of security culture, what we're talking about is actually breeding an environment where people care. As it stands today, in most organizations, your employees do not care about the cybersecurity of your organization. They don't care about the data that you hold. And that is not their fault. There are teams, there are people that is their job. They're paid to do that. So the general attitude is there's a data protection officer who tells me I can't do stuff. That's their job. It's not me. I don't have to worry about that. I've done my 20 minutes of training, done, move on. You've got a cyber team that say, oh, you clicked us in, aren't you terrible? Oh, we've sent out a phishing simulation to try and trick you. That is not good enough. But those things exist and they actually do more harm than good. What we're talking about is security culture, is breeding an environment where people actually care. And you don't do that by sending out phishing simulations. Don't do that through annual training. What you do is you create an environment where people really care about their own personal security. Because what they do is they start to breed strong cyber habit, online behavior at home. And that is the thing that is always missing, because the first thing that someone does to change cyber culture is they say, oh, you're at work and you need to set a strong password. Why? Why would I care about that? That's your problem. In my personal life, I should care and I should protect myself, because when I breed those strong behaviors at home, I bring those to work. I don't do it the other way around. Never will. If I care about my Ring doorbell, and I'm going to do something about NFA, I might then enable NFA at work. But I don't have enterprise security at home. I do at work, so I should care about it at home. So that's what I talk about when I'm talking about changing the culture. The reason that's really important, and I forget the exact statistics, but years ago, it was, I think back in 2019, before COVID, it was something like 86% of data incidents are due to human related incidents or phishing email or whatever the statistic is. Now we're talking 96%. So over that period of time, over the last 5 years, your shitty security awareness program that you're generating no effort in doing the bare minimum, doing exactly what regulation says you have to do, doesn't work. And it's causing more hassle, more incidents. It's damaging your business, costing you money. But actually, if you just invested in doing it in the right way, then you would be a better organization. You'd have better customer trust because you wouldn't be leaking stuff all over the place. And your staff would be better protecting of you and your themselves.
Oh, that's brilliant. And then looking forward to the future, what trends or even technologies do you sort of excited or see coming out in the next couple of years that are going to enable businesses when it comes to the training aspect and increasing awareness? And of course, ensuring that is accessible in the future.
I really hope that people start seeing what they should be doing and investing in it. But I know in reality that, and I'm going to try not to besmirch any organization's names, but I know what money, like if you've got spare budget, I know what tech you're going to spend it. I absolutely know that. I know that what you're not going to do is look at the people and processes and fix that area. And until you fix that area, your risk grows. What you're going to do is put in a new monitoring tool. There'll be a new SIEM or something sexy where you can say, oh, we've just invested in the latest module that does the thing. When you don't tighten up your people and processes and your controls around that and change those behaviors, you increase the attack surface, because if you just monitor some stuff, you're not implementing a cultural change, a behavior change. So that behavior continues to happen. And when you block that by implementing a technical control, say I increase the monitoring of my email system and I start quarantining more and more emails, what I have to do is I go into my junk folder and I start rummaging in my junk folder because the email that I need is in my junk folder. That is not a behavior we want people to do. Yet every email that you get that says, here's the verification code, if you don't get it, have a look in your junk. So we're actively encouraging people to go through the thing that protects us from the bad emails. It's terrible. Just stop spending the money on the things. Do the people and the process stuff, because that's where it makes it.
I agree with you on that. And we have conversations with security leaders and professionals that sometimes describe the security remit as a pyramid. with perhaps strategy at the bottom, then people, process and technology. But we also see organizations that put technology at the big part of that pyramid. What's your perspective on that? And Ira, could you describe that to us?
I would say 99.5% of companies prioritize technology over people and process. And it's a horrible thing to do. So, I mean, you guys have a podcast which is hosted in a myriad of places. So say I rolled out a policy change in my organization you work at, and I said, no more Spotify for anybody. How are you going to do your job? You can't do your job because your job is to host podcasts on Spotify. But I said, no, we don't do Spotify anymore because it's not safe. That's a technology control change that means that you have to bypass that system to be able to do your job because I haven't understood the people or the process within my organization. It was a terrible thing to you because you are actually increasing your amount of policy violations by not understanding the people and process and only worrying about the technology. It's wasting time and money.
Yeah, a lot of organizations unnecessarily causing friction internally because they haven't spent the time on the ground with perhaps the teams or the individuals and really understood what the trade-offs and balances should look like. We had a conversation a few weeks back with a security leader that had a similar incident with one of their tech teams that were bypassing to use the Bluetooth to their speaker. So what it does often cause employees to look beyond that and go outside of that route and look at shadow IT, for instance. I know we've discussed that a few times.
Absolutely. Now I'm sitting in this room here and I'm a fruit-based product owner and I can't even count how many fruit-based product things I have in this room that are all listening to me right now. Right now, say I'm working on a government contract and everything is official, sensitive or higher, I should not have any of those listening devices in my room, right? But you've got, even on the non-fruit-based ones, you've got the really useless thing, voice activating thing that you can speak to. And it's listening to you. So, this is crazy. Why are you not worried about the people in the processes? And you're allowing people to have smart devices in their workplace, which is the remote working side of things, which is leaking your data and it's all being recorded. And it can be accessed.
Okay, Jemma, we've obviously touched on this a little in the intro, but would you be kind of to talk a little bit more about your personal journey into cyber? Give us a bit of insight into what drives your mission to help others and maybe some of the lessons that you've learned along the way that you believe could inspire other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I grew up in not a great environment and was led then a big part of my education to be moving around in the foster care system. So I pretty much didn't go to school for the last 2 years. Learning wasn't for me and that was fine. So I went out into the world of work as an unskilled person. So when I was 16, I had 3 jobs. I worked in a college reception in the day, I worked in a call center at night, and then I worked in a hotel in the evenings because I needed to live. I didn't have a family unit. And then I realized that to progress through my career, I would need to increase my skills. And so I kept volunteering for things like, oh, I'll learn how to do that. I can do that. Oh, I'll take that shift, which then led me to get an actual office job. So at the time where I was like, right, I need a proper job where I'm not doing all of these things, I was a single teenage mum to a small child with 3 jobs. So I was right, be a mum and do the jobs and not keep doing all of these. So I went to work in an office and I just literally just kept putting my hand up. I'll learn how to do that. I'll learn how to do that. Because I'd worked out that I was a hands-on learner and not someone who could be talked at on the squelchy carpet and know what was going on in the world. So you give me something, I'll play with it, I'll work it out, fine, moving on. So that doing all of those things led me to work in an organization that supported adults with learning difficulties and provided them advocates to speak on their behalf. So to make sure that they were getting access to whatever services they needed, to go to court, to apply for benefits, whatever it was that they needed. And so I was working part-time as a single mum. I needed more money. They were advertising for a support worker. So I said, I'll do that. I'll learn how to be a support worker. So I took on that responsibility. And so then became a support worker for these people. And I also became the bookkeeper of the organization, even though I can't read numbers, because I was like, I need more money. I'll work on a Saturday. I'll be a bookkeeper. I'm now your bookkeeper. Terrible idea because I just I read numbers back to front. But so it was awful. So yeah, then I started teaching adults with learning difficulties, life skills, and it started off as I'll support them. And then I wanted to help them gain independence. So it was that supporting people to better their lives and do bits and pieces. So I taught them how to recognize money. So they stopped handing over their wallet or purse in Greggs or other pastry shops that exist, but, to gain their own independence and their own security. So obviously I had a risk aversion back then of like, oh, this seems like a dangerous thing. I should stop people getting taken advantage of. So I then kind of needed more money and discovered that sales paid quite nicely. So off I went into the world of sales. And I became a really good salesperson, not because I was good at sales, but I would listen to people. So they would tell me about, we're making a greenhouse out of lemonade bowls. And I would listen to that for a really long time, much to the disgust of my boss. And then right at the end, they'd say, cool, do you want to buy the thing? And they'd go, yeah, go on then, because I chatted to them for a really long time. And so I was the top salesperson in an organization. What I realized in sales was that I didn't have any of the marketing collateral that I needed, because the marketing people were terrible and I didn't have the things that I could go, let me send you the stuff and then you can have a look and then you can buy the thing from me. So then I decided to move into marketing. So I was, I'll do the marketing things while I'm working in sales. We started doing marketing things and I became quite good at that. And I bought a course on Groupon for 50 quid. So I became a qualified marketing person for 50 quid Groupon course. And then decided to give up on the sales thing, went out into the world of marketing. So my last real job when I was gainfully employed was in the world of marketing. I was working for those nerdy computer organization membership body type things. And for the first time in forever, I had gone on holiday and I'd not been able to afford a holiday ever until this one time that I went on holiday. And during my holiday, I got a phone call saying I didn't have a job to come back to. So that wasn't a great holiday. However, I was in an all-inclusive resort and there was a cake shop. So off I went to the cake shop and ate a load of cake. While I just decided that I got really sick of making other people rich and I couldn't afford a holiday. So I was just going to set up on my own. So I decided to become a freelance marketing person. And so I leave my holiday 2 weeks later. I am now Jemma of the marketing place, representing myself. The place that had just made me redundant called me in and then assigned my accounts back to me. So they became my first client. Excellent. They were paying me 3 times what they paid me to work there. It was a great day. Shortly after that, I was contacted by OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project. This is the first time I knew anything about cybersecurity. So OWASP were putting on the first OWASP conference. It was called the OWASP Summit back in 2017. And they called and said, we need someone on site to run this conference and do all the marketing and sort it all out. And they had 200 global cyber leaders coming from all over the world, flying into Bedford to attend a conference. And they had a conference venue and some hotel rooms. And that was it. They called me on the Wednesday. The conference was starting on the Monday. So I had a lot to be doing. So off I went, got in my car with my bag of underwear, and off I went to Bedford and spent 10 days living with cybersecurity people in a forest. During that time, WannaCry hit, which you mentioned in the intro. WannaCry was one of the largest global ransomware attacks that effectively hit the NHS harder than anything that we know about to this day until recent times. So I was in a room with 200 of the best cyber minds in the world as the biggest global cyber attack hit, which is an experience that not many people, it's the 200 people that were in that room can say they were there, but not an experience most non-cyber people go through. But that was the moment where I realized that this cyber thing seemed important because people like my nan couldn't go to the doctors. And that was the minute where I knew I was not okay with this cyber thing happening. So I didn't know what I could do about it in that situation. I'm just a marketing person. One of the people that was in that room is a chap called Dennis Cruz. And Dennis Cruz, I always say, you can either thank him or blame him for the reason that I'm in cyber. Because he saw something in me and he said, I'm hiring a team at this global e-commerce brand and I need you in my team. And I laughed hysterically for a solid 4 minutes. Was like, I'm just this marketing person. What could I possibly know? And he said, event management is event management. And cyber things are basically event management. And you just organised a conference of 2 days, morning, and got catering and AV and done all the graphics and done all of this stuff. So I was like, well, I need some money, so why not? So off I went to become a cyber person. And I cared during WannaCry, but I really cared when this global e-commerce brand started sending things to the wrong people, which most companies do. They have a tolerance for mixed orders. It's around about 1% of mixed orders they reckon go to the wrong place. The issue that I had was the mixed orders had enough information in somewhere in the package where the receiver of that order could contact the initial purchaser and say, I've got your stuff using Facebook. And that was the moment where I lost my shit. And I was like, I'm not okay with this. Like, you've tracked down people and this is not okay. So that was the moment where I knew that cyber was really important to me, because I would not be happy if somebody tracked me down and knew things about my purchasing history, especially from the side of marketing. I don't know if people might not know this, but you are not allowed to directly target one individual, and you're not allowed to be able to identify an individual through marketing activities. If your pool of people is less than 100 people, you're not allowed to market to them, because you could, in theory, identify a specific individual through that activity. And so I'm not okay with me ordering something, not going to the wrong person, and that person finding me and saying, hey, I've got your cheese, or whatever it is, because they've got enough personal information about me to find that. So that was the moment I really started to care.
Appreciate the insight, and thank you for talking us through it. We're kind of coming towards the end of the episode now, but just briefly, what would be your sort of what would a key piece of advice be that you'd give to those people just starting out in the industry? And one of the questions we always ask people at the sort of end of our episodes is, what's an analogy that you tend to find you use quite often within either the workplace or just in general?
Oh, I get asked the advice thing quite a lot, and it generally is around entry routes. And I think cyber has done something really terrible, and not necessarily just cyber, tech has done something really terrible, where you do this massive wish list of like, here's my ideal person. And if you don't meet those criteria, then you don't even get through the sift of a CV. So someone trying to get into cyber, we've made it really difficult for really great transfer skills effectively. Now, I wouldn't be where I am today had someone not allowed my transfer skills into cyber. And so I think, I don't want to blow my own trumpet. There are plenty of people that do blow my trumpet for me, but you would have missed out on me if I had been subject to those controls. And so my advice to people that are coming into cyber is do the networking and build connections with people that are doing things that excite you. And my advice to cyber leaders is let them in, let them come play, let them show you their passion and their aptitude. So there's that. The analogy that I use on a daily basis is, if I drove my car for once a year for 20 minutes, I would not be a safe driver. So why does 20 minutes of annual training mean anything to anybody? What all you know from that is that I've got from A to Z, right? But you don't know how many pedestrians I've hit, how many dogs are hanging onto the back of my car. You have no idea. You just know I got from A.
What does the future hold for you, Jemma?
So, we're going to continue to do all of the excellent things that we do in fighting the good fight. There is some developments in terms of the Coach Gem e-learning platform, which is the first and only fully inclusive and accessible compliant e-learning platform that exists out in the entire world, which is lovely. Yes. So we built something that allows you to choose how you want to learn, in what colour, in what voice, so it removes all barriers to learning. And we've extremely privileged in that we are just about to go down under and take Coach Jam to Australia, to the Melbourne Cyber Conference. So we've been trying to work out how we can make this accessible to everybody and remove barriers to access. So we're focusing on taking our product to English-speaking countries that should be able to benefit and actually care about cyber stuff, and being that Australia is part of Five Eyes, which is the network of countries that support each other in terms of threat intel and cyber response. So we're heading there in the next few weeks. We're up for a bunch of awards, so please vote for us wherever you see that we're collecting those. And we're also just about to launch our Lego series, which is really cool. So we're doing a series of short cyber compliance training videos that feature Lego mini-Legos.
With those obviously exciting developments in mind, and for any of our other listeners who want to stay connected with you beyond this podcast and certainly beyond the creation platform, where else can they reach out to you?
Oh, but weirdly, if you just Google Jemma Cyber, they come up, which is terrible. And on nights out, I have to remember not to tell people my name, otherwise they find me and track me down. But if you want to connect with me directly, if you on any platform, if you look for InfoSec Jam, so that's INFOSECJEM, that's me. And the excellent platform that you should all be really excited about is Culture Jam. So if you look for us, Culture Jam, we're out and about on all good platform.
Thank you. Myself and Warren have certainly enjoyed the episode, and I'm sure our community and all our listeners will have found a lot of value in today's session. And if anyone wishes to continue the discussion and for more sustained engagement, we always invite you to join the Secure Cyber Connect community. We're going to be offering a range of collaborative solutions for both technology and security professionals at no cost. And these include expansive community access, cross-section mutual mentoring programs, weekly online networking sessions, and a range of exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and masterclasses. If people want to learn more and to gain access to the Secure Cyber Connect community and all of our initiatives, please visit secure-recruitment.com/cyber-connect/. Thank you.